Give that a format. It's funny. When I pressed F4, it should have put a dollar sign around everything. It just toggled it. Each time I press F4, it toggles it. So let's make sure that's... Notice how F4, I've got $sign A2, F4 again, no dollar signs, F4 again, dollar sign, dollar sign. All right. Good. Fantastic. Now we should be able to copy these guys around if we want to, but it still worked. Hopefully you feel comfortable. Vertical lookup, it's taking this item here, A6, it's looking for it here because this is the first column of that range. Once it finds it, it goes over within the range we selected, either to the second column, the third column, or the fourth column. Instead of having to worry about this and making a relative reference and selecting the range, wouldn't it be nice to have a named range, and then we could just simply type in the name of the range instead of selecting? It sure would be. I didn't mean to click outside of that formula, so I clicked the X. Let's go back here. We are going to create a named range. A named range means we select an array of cells and we give it all a name. Then, when we create formulas, we can simply refer to the name of the range instead of having to remember, oh, was that A2 through D82? Did it start with B? I don't remember. You can simply type the name of the range. You don't have to go out and select it. It can be very, very handy. So there's a couple of different ways you can create a named range. First thing you do, though, is you select the cells that you'd like in your range. All right, and by the way, here's a tip. If you work with the zoom, sometimes it's a lot easier to select a range of cells because now I can just go zoop, a lot quicker to do it that way. Another quick way that you can select a range of cells is you can select the top of the range, you can press Shift on your keyboard, select the bottom of the range, and it selects the entire thing for you. I don't know if you've ever done this, but sometimes if I have hundreds of rows and I click and drag, all of a sudden I'm 100 rows below where I meant to be, and then I drag up and I'm 100 rows above where I thought I was going to be. All right. To name a range, the first step is to select the cells. The next step is to name it. The easiest way, I think, to name it is just to click in here, and we're going to call this range Inventory. And I'll press Enter. Now this range is inventory. When I click here, it's red or blue. When I click here, I'm just selecting that. But now I can select that and I have inventory as my named range. Let's go back here and see if this makes this VLOOKUP any easier. I'm going to go back to my formulas. I'm going to grab VLOOKUP. It is also in this area right here. VLOOKUP at the bottom, of course. My lookup value, what am I doing? I'm in A7. My table array is called inventory. Notice it figured that out. The column or index number, column 2. And I'll just put true there for the lookup. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 3. Enter. There we go. There's another batting glove. So that absolutely worked. A7, inventory, second column, and true. I should actually rearrange these columns here because I want them to match the order here, price and size, so I can just copy this formula over and have it be appropriate. So instead of B7, though, I want to look up A7, and instead of row 2, I want row 3. And let's modify this also. Instead of C7, I'm looking for A7, and this time I'm looking for column 4. Let's look a bit more at named ranges. I can go back here again. I can choose inventory. That's great. We have a whole area on the Formulas toolbar, on the Formulas ribbon, called Defined Names. When I click on Name Manager, it shows me all of my named ranges. Inventory is from this specific workbook. Here it tells me the range. If I wanted to modify that, I could just click that and reselect add to the range or remove from the range. I could always click my edit button here and I could put a comment in there. This is for VLOOKUPs. If someone were to ever wonder why this name range exists. Okay. I could, of course, delete this range. I could filter to see all of the named ranges I have in one worksheet, the current one, within the entire workbook, or I could even see if I've got some errors or some data tables that have been defined. Of course, if I want to delete a range, I simply select it, choose delete, or I can go to new and create a whole new range. So I could create a range that's just called skew, which it gave me that already. That's fine. By default, the default is in the workbook, which means anything within this file will be able to take advantage of this range. If I have it only on the Inventory Sheet tab, it's not unique within my workbook, and it's only visible right there on that sheet. So workbook is usually the best scope for your named ranges because you can take advantage of these names on different worksheets. The only reason why really you'd want to keep them on one sheet is if you're doing formulas on one sheet and you want to call it the same named range on each and every one of your sheets, and you can do that because the scope is only the worksheet and you can have duplicate names as long as they're only on one sheet. What would my range be for skew? Well, I don't want it to be the same as inventory. I want it to be this range down to 82. And I'm thinking it would have been a lot quicker just to type that in there. So skew would make sense. A2 through A82. F4. Okay. Let's make sure that's correct. A2 through A82 instead of D82. All right, so I'm in inventory. If I choose skew, my range is a little bit different. Another way that I can define a range is to go right here to the define name. Define name or apply name. Well, I want to define a name. Note this is the same dialog box that we were in before. So I could do product, and I can change that from B2 to B82. Okay. Now let's see what product is. See what we're doing here? So then if I wanted to go back and delete skew, I can select it, choose delete. Are you sure? Okay, I'm sure. So we just talked about how you define names, a little bit of why you want to define names, so you can just refer to these names and they're always going to cite the same range. But here's another reason. You can use one single cell as a named range or just name one cell, and then you can always refer to that same cell within many different formulas. A named range can also come in pretty handy if you have a number of different formulas and you think that the source data might change. So in your formulas, you don't want to always say cell G12. Instead, you want to say discounted price total. That way, if all sorts of base data changes, your formula doesn't have to be modified. Discount price total will always be there. You just would go back and you would change the source data that that name points to. So hopefully you see the power of named ranges and using conditional logic as well as using your VLOOKUP to find values. So you can do less typing overall. Keep in mind that HLOOKUP is just like VLOOKUP except for you're looking horizontally across a row. It's the same syntax. Here's what we covered in our conditional formula CBT nugget. We took a look at the if formulas so we could test on criteria. We did a vertical lookup formula, and we also named our ranges. There are many different ways that you can get in there and name ranges and edit ranges and delete them as well. All of these techniques here can be expounded upon within your work life to really make your use of Excel be quite efficient and hopefully a little bit fun as well. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.